Carl Gould, welcome to What's the Word?
Thanks so much for having me, Chevelle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm truly honored. And I'm going to start with an icebreaker question. And the question is, what was the first concert you have ever attended?
The first concert I ever attended?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The first concert ever, absolutely ever was, I'm here in New Jersey, so as a kid, I remember my older sister took me to the Kool and the Gang concert at Great Adventure. I must have been 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that. But my first real concert that I went to that I had a choice about, I went to see the Cars when I was in high school with Darryl Rankin, Jim Kennedy. I went to see the Cars freshman year of high school, 1981.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome. And I guess and that's kind of like, that was the time when the music was starting to become more, I guess you could say, hip, per se.
I guess so. I've been to a few really good ones, though. I mean, I went to Live Aid in Philadelphia. That was really cool. I did Amnesty International, the big concert here in New York. That was pretty cool. And I like going to concerts. Actually, I've been to a lot.
All right. Okay, that's really awesome. So now we're going to transition into what you do. Can you share with us about your company, Seven Stage Advisors?
Sure. Seven Stage Advisors is a growth advisory firm, meaning companies come to us who have gotten started and are had some success, but they're looking to be more consistent and they want to grow their revenues as well as grow their profits and be very, very sustainable. So we work with companies to take them to the next level, show them ways to differentiate themselves, and do what we call hyper grow, meaning hyper grow their revenues and hypergrow their revenues and their profits. We coach them, we guide them, we help them create the plan, and then we hold them accountable to it.
Okay, that's really cool. So how did you get into that then?
Kind of by accident. I got to tell you, I used to be. I had two careers in construction, and here in New Jersey, and I sold those businesses and then moved into the business that I have now. And so I went to a Tony Robbins seminar in 1990, really fell in love with personal development and decided that I wanted to get more involved in coaching. And so it was really great. It was really great. So I learned the skill of coaching, and then in the mid 90s, I decided I wanted this to be my career. I wanted this to be a full-time career, and so in 2002, 2002, I decided to sell my business, but in 2004, I sold my construction business and launched the business that I have today. And so it took some time. I did it part-time all throughout the 90s, but then I really wanted to make it my full-time work in the 2000s.
Oh, well, okay. So basically So for those of us who are entrepreneurs or those who are thinking of being entrepreneurs, you're saying that people can start out on the side per se while they grow their business, and then if they feel the need to go out full time, they should do that then.
Right. Well, look, I'm the kind of guy who does that sort of thing, so I don't have any problem at all saying to somebody, go out and start your business. As a matter of fact, it's what I've learned is that what I've learned is that sometimes in the toughest economic times is the best time to go into business, and that's what I did. I started my company in the middle of a real estate recession, and it was one of the best moves I ever made.
Wow. Okay. So people might think that's a little crazy per se, but you saw that as an opportunity. So convince some of us who might think that we should start during a great time, but to look for like not looking for bad stuff to happen, but say if something is like say the housing bust or the dot-com bubble that happened. Why should we go out and start a business during the troubled times instead of the good times then?
Well, look, all right, so how do I say this? I mean, becoming an entrepreneur is not for everybody, and only 1 in 15 people even become, get into business to start with. And that's, to be honest with you, that's probably the right number. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur sees the opportunity in everything. So they don't wait. They don't wait to say, well, I'm going to wait for the conditions to be perfect and then I'm going to start my business. That's not the way they do it. They say, what's the opportunity now? How do I best exploit it? And let me go for it right now. Entrepreneurs don't wait. So if you're doing that much over analysis, then you're not ready for entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
here's the thing. Yeah, Shabal, here's what happens. An entrepreneur sees something that's wrong, and they see a problem, and they say, how can I fix the problem, and how can I create something that'll save money, right? So I come up with a better mousetrap that'll save people money or make them more money. So the very nature of an entrepreneur says, the more chaotic, the more things are going wrong, the better, the more you need me. So I'm going to dive in there when there's a problem. I'm not waiting.
Wow. Okay. That's really great. That's really great. Interesting you said that there because because I've been looking at like for example like Apple and Steve Jobs. Been reading a lot. I'm looking at their videos about try to understand more about that company because of you know you know spending a lot of time with some great people you know who are doing great in the business. But one of the things that really got me was when he said to this on an interview was that he basically the reason why they started a company was because they they had their original plan was to give their personal computer to 100 friends, and they realized that the only way they could did that was by mass production, and that turned into a business. So so I could say in some ways that even though there's some might say do market research, I think you should do the opposite where you do where you go after a problem that you feel personally that you need to solve for yourself, which in turn will open up a market. So am I wrong for saying that?
No, you're not wrong at all. I mean, just because you have a premise about why you think you might start the business or not, there's always other things that come into play. And then, Steve Jobs wanted to do this for a bunch of his friends, but then they said, you know what, we've got a real opportunity here, and he seized it. He saw the opportunity, and he seized the opportunity. So you want to do the same thing.
Okay. So now we're gonna get into a nitty gritty because you said you used to work for Tony Robbins. Now,
Yeah.
here's the question: what did working for Tony Robbins help in you becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, one of the things I learned from going to some of his seminars was I learned how much I learned the importance of taking action, and that all action is massive action, and that anytime you can make progress towards a goal, you are building forward momentum towards something that you want to achieve. And so I found that going to his seminars and learning from him specifically, everything was about taking action. Everything was about doing something. You didn't, he said, never leave the sight of an idea without setting a goal and taking an action. And so I very much took that to heart, and I said, you know what, this is a very valuable lesson, and it's one that has really stuck with me over the years.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's really cool. So here's a question: Did you have any doubts that you were going to succeed in your current business right now? And if so, how did you overcome those doubts?
Well, I never doubted that I would be successful. I always knew that. I knew that no matter what, I will make sure that I'm a success. I will make sure that I provide for my family. I will make sure that I'll be a productive, citizen. I will make sure I contribute to the lives of others. It doesn't take any particular skill to do that. You just have to have the commitment to do it and the hustle. That's it. You're willing to put the work in, you're going to avoid failure. Now, question is, how big of a success and what kind of success do you want? Well, everybody defines that differently. And, every person has to decide, what is success for me? How is that going to work for me? And what will I consider, at the end of the day, what will I consider my life to be a success? And for me, I wanted to contribute to the lives of others. I wanted to make sure that I shared my gift with others, and that I felt like I had something of value to share. And I realized, come the mid to late 90s, that the business I was in, I wasn't sharing my gift enough, and so I pivoted and changed my work life, my work life, and I find myself in a business now where I feel like I truly contribute. I'm totally passionate about what I do. I love what I do, and don't feel like I've worked a day in my life since I started it.
Okay, and that's really interesting because that's what you mentioned about alignment, per se, and in some ways you use a metaphor as as a rower, like a rower, basically. The person that's in front is directing the people, and everyone has to be in unison, per se. And I'm going to read this quote that's it's one of your favorite quotes. That he said, "It's what you do, not what you say. If you're not part of the future, then get out of the way." And that's by John Mellencamp. So,
Yep.
So why did you? So why is that your favorite quote then?
Well, if you think about it, they say actions speak louder than words, right? And so there's a lot of people, we all know people in our lives that talk a big game, always say they're going to do something, and then they don't do anything. Right? They don't do anything about it. And that's frustrating to me, and it's disappointing to me. But I value the person who takes action, and I value the person who says, look, I see a problem or I see an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. But if I'm not going to go for it, I'm very happy moving to the side and let somebody else do it. So when I say if you're not part of the future, then get out of the way, it doesn't mean you're not important, and it doesn't mean that you don't have a place. It just means if I'm not gonna go for something, right? If I'm not gonna run up and get that last slice of pizza at the pizzeria, I'll help somebody else get it, or I'll get out of the way so somebody else can realize that dream, right? I don't have to have that piece of pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good analogy there. So, all right, so now, what's your thoughts? Since we're seeing a shift in live video per se, what is your thoughts on entrepreneurs doing live video now, especially small businesses?
Do you mean like having a podcast at a Starbucks in Houston on Facebook Live? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, I don't know anybody who would do that, but now that I know what you're looking for, Cheval, I'll keep my eye open. I mean, I think, look, I think it's fantastic when you, I mean, come on, think about this for a minute, Cheval. This conversation couldn't happen this way a year ago. I mean, it's incredible. The technology, I download an app, you and I are talking video, and then we post it, we both simultaneously post it to our respective lists at the same time. It's incredible that we're able to pull this off. But I love the immediacy of it. There's always been a transparency with the web and video, which is great, meaning you just can't hide anymore. But the fact that anyone can be a journalist and anybody can click a few buttons and be sharing their expertise, I understand there's a lot of noise on the internet, and I understand there's a lot of information on the internet, but there is a lot more quality information on the internet than there has ever been before. So I think the idea that you can use video and social media for the immediacy of contacting and communicating and connecting, I think is tremendous. It speeds up the velocity of business.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, the thing is too. It's like I'll say for podcasting too. It's like like from one, like if you're like say in a small city, you can reach customers around the world. If you're like doing a podcast or even like video per se, you can go out and you know broadcast amongst your friends or your followers on your business page. And I think that's a great plus if you want to stand out for your competition, because I know for a fact that not many people are doing this.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. Um, so it's and the tools and the technology is there now that anybody can do it at any time, and you don't need to be an expert, and you don't need to be high tech, and you don't need to have a studio. And I think it's the authenticity of the moment that to me is the most impressive, because there is a lot of fluff out there, and there is a lot of very superficial information. But when you're coming live like this, you could just get real, and you could just get down to the actual information, and those who find it valuable can tune in, and those that don't have to.
Yeah, that's the truth there, and of course, I will give a shout out to these people, which I think many should pay attention to. Mitch Jackson and Jennifer Hoverstad, they host a show called The Show That's Live, and I can tell you that their shows is very informative, it's very cool because of the fact that they have been consistent. They've hosted the show for 2 years now, but during that time period, it was a platform called Blab, and of course that went away last year. And then of course there's another platform called Husa.io, which that was around for almost 3 years, but they got sold to Kickstarter this year. But even amongst those times, they still kept the show going. And of course now they're hosting here on Blue Jeans Network and using exclusively to Facebook Live, and it's just the consistency. So to my mind, they are the what you call I call them the persisters, and I think that's what's needed in order to succeed as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no question about it. There's no question about it.
Yeah. So here's the question there. So now for those of us who are thinking who are afraid of appearing in front of video or even speaking to an audience, what advice would you give to us, if we want to say stand out, especially if we're afraid of speaking in front of people?
Yeah, it's I'll tell you, public speaking is not easy, and there's a lot of people that learn that when they first start it. But but you got to you have to make sure that you're not making more of the situation than it is. I mean, the call we're having right now is no different than us talking on the phone. The only difference is there's a camera on us, and the main thing that we have to get comfortable with is, Cheval, it's not that we have to get comfortable with public speaking. The thing is we need to get comfortable with ourselves. The only difference between a phone call and not is that I can see me talking to you, right? So I've just got to get comfortable with myself in such a way that I don't judge myself. I'm not too critical of myself. I am forgiving of myself, and I am accepting of myself for who I am and who I am not. And when you find a comfort level and a comfort level within your own skin, I think sharing of your gift, sharing of your background becomes much easier. And your information and what you have to share.
Wow. Okay, okay. Can you share an example of that then? Elaborate even more now.
Okay, so a lot of times, when we do our client work, at the end of one of our processes, we'll take a photograph. We'll say, hey, everybody, you're trying to grow your business, let's take a photograph. And invariably, there'll be somebody on the team that says, oh, no, don't take my picture. I don't want my picture taken. And we'll say, why? and we take the photo, everybody's in it. They see the photo and they'll say, "Oh, I hate the way my hair looks. Oh, I need to lose weight. Oh, I should have. Had I known, I would have dressed better." And they're so overly critical of themselves that when they see themselves, we tend to be our own harshest critics. So, since we, if we can't see ourselves, then we tend not to judge ourselves as much. But when we can see ourselves, we tend to start judging ourselves more. We have to get over that a little bit because there's nobody that's paying as much attention to us as we are, right? So, it's like getting that little spot on your shirt and you think, oh my God, everybody must be noticing it. You know what? Not everybody cares. They're not noticing. They're not even bothering to look. You're not on their mind. Get over yourself, right? So it's you just have to realize, it does take some practice, but you need to realize what is it you bring to the party, what is it that you know is valuable, and then there is a chance you have to take. There is a risk. There will be some people who don't like what you do, and there's some people who do like what you do. And the reality is you have to take a chance and just roll with who might be accepting and who might not, because not everybody's going to like you for what you do or what you're about. But you just have to believe enough in what your topic is that, those that want to follow it, fine. Those that don't, they can tune out and they can go somewhere else.
All right, that's a great advice. So question is now, did you had a mentor during your time as an entrepreneur?
I did. I hired a business mentor in 1996. His name was Eric Lehman, and Eric, I had a construction company at the time, and Eric taught me to hang up the hammer, meaning go from being an operator to being a businessman. And, boy, that made all the difference in the world.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So, can you share more about that? Because I think that's a really interesting quote there.
Hanging up the hammer?
Yeah.
Right. So when I had my construction company, I built homes, I did renovation work, and but I was an operator. I still did some of the work. So I put on a tool, not every day, but most days, I put on my tool belt, and I had to swing a hammer. I had to build things. And so it's hard to be working your business, in your business, and growing it at the same time. Those are two full-time jobs. And so my business was running me more than I was running my business. And so something needed to change. And something needed to change, and what needed to happen was I needed to pick which side of the business do I want to be in. Do I want to be swinging a hammer and being a carpenter the rest of my life, or do I want to run a business where buildings got renovated and built with me swinging a hammer or without? And to be honest with you, I loved the work that I did, but I wanted, more important to me than the work itself was how many people could I impact? How many people's lives could I make a difference in? And when I was building one house, I could make the difference in one family's lives. But if I became a businessman and I was able to do multiple projects, I could impact more lives on a regular basis. And so I wanted to hang up the hammer and become a business manager rather than a business operator.
Oh, wow. Okay. So in some sense, that's like for us, who are entrepreneurs, we have to know when to hire someone to take over so that we can focus more on growing the business then.
That's right.
All right. So now now we got to ask, how do we know when is the right time to hire someone else to do the work? Because I think because we want to hire the right people.
So the reality is that in the beginning, if you're just getting started out, the time to hire somebody is now. No matter what position you're in, it's now. Because if you are a small company, meaning you're under 5 employees, that means you're probably one of the top rainmakers in the company. You're doing all the selling. So anything that stops you from marketing or selling your business, you need to hire somebody to help you do. So you don't need to be the one getting the mail. You don't need to be the one answering the phone calls and all the emails and printing out all of the brochures. You need to start hiring somebody to help you with that. Now, a good rule of thumb is that an entrepreneurial business, most, not all, but most, do about $150,000 of annual revenue per employee. So if you start your business and you get it up to $150,000, it's probably time to hire another one. When you get up to $300,000, probably time to hire another one. When you get up to $450,000 to $500,000, probably time to hire another one. So every about $150,000 worth of revenue, you're, not in every business, in most businesses, you are probably hiring somebody either part-time or full-time, or you're using an outsourced resource.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. That's a really great rule of thumb there. Then. So, all right. So now 3 more questions. If you
Sure.
had the opportunity to spend one day with someone you admire, past or present, outside of your family members, to learn from, who would that person be?
Well, that's a really good question. I think I would have liked, if I could go back in history, I would have liked to have had a ringside seat next to John F. Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Huh.
It seemed to me, from what I've read, that he had such calm under pressure when his top advisors weren't even telling him the truth all the time. And he was able to see through all the chaos. He was able to read between the lines, and his strategy for the Cuban Missile Crisis, based on what I've read, and I can only go by what I've read, was incredible. And one of the greatest, for me, one of the greatest lessons in strategic leadership I think I've ever read.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. That's really interesting there. So now, where can people find out more about your company, 7 Stage Group Advisors?
So you could learn more about us, 7stageadvisors.com. So the number 7,
right.
stageadvisors.com. And I'm Carl Gould, so you can email me at carlgould@7stageadvisors.com, and I'd be happy to speak at your next event or show you how to take your business to the next level, or just show you how I may be able to bring you some value in your business.
Awesome. Well, Carl Gould, I want to say thank you again for joining me on Once a Word. I'm truly honored. Do you have any final words for audiences watching on Facebook Live or who will listen to this show later on?
Well, just thank you so much for taking the time to listen in. And if you're considering entrepreneurship or growing your business, usually the greatest feedback I get, the most frequent feedback I should say that I get, is that our clients tell us that they wish they had done it earlier. So if you're still contemplating it, the time to start is now.
Awesome. Well, Carl Gould, again, thank you for joining me on What's the Word.
Thanks so much, Cheval.